Mass Effect is one of those franchises that likely cracks into a lot of people's best games of all time list, and I was too young to really catch on to the trend. I'm an '03 baby. The same year I was born, LeBron got drafted. Evanescence was popping off. Iraq got invaded. Most of what I've heard about this franchise was how bad Mass Effect Andromeda was. I don't even think I caught a whiff of the Mass Effect 3 ending drama. When the whole Mass Effect Andromeda fiasco was going on, people raved about how much of a downgrade it was from the original trilogy. And by people, I meant Donkey, and best believe that was all it took for me to hop on the bandwagon. I was such an impressionable kid, and you already know where that gets you on the internet. No, little Filipino boy, don't get on the internet in the mid-2010s! Wow, this YouTuber is very funny, and I hate women now. Really, the lesson here is that you should stay far away from 9Gang. Do not touch that thing with a 10-foot pole. What was I talking about? Yeah, Mass Effect. One day, I saw Mass Effect Legendary Edition on sale, and the opportunity arose to come into this franchise with fresh eyes. And also, I'm not gonna make my own opinion about it this time. Anyways, I bought it. Let's try it and rate it 1 through 10. Mass Effect 1, the game to kick off the franchise. Let's start off with the bad parts first. The Mako. Oh, the Mako. You know, the wheels feeling like soap on a prison's bathroom is manageable enough on its own, but the topography on these planets are fucking atrocious. Not to mention how this thing can sometimes get stuck on terrain, which means I have to load a previous save. These planets are not worth doubling your lost brain cells. On that note, how you explore these planets is by going up to the same copy-pasted points of interest peppered throughout the map. You can hack beacons for money, you can mine minerals for money, you can kill thresher moths, and if you're lucky, you can have some combat encounters. But don't look too hard, the interiors are copy-pasted as well. They just lock some areas out to make it look like there's variation. I don't even think exploration is the right word because you aren't discovering anything new for like 99% of the planets you land on. Whatever. If you got the patience to deal with this shit, good on you, but I'm gonna be docking points because of this. Let's talk about combat now, and it's okay. It's serviceable enough. There's a variety of weapons, ammo types, grenades, even though I never used them. You can shoot barrels, which is always fun. And to top it all off, you get abilities, which depend on the class. Tech abilities suck, but biotic abilities are really fun. You can pull up a barrier and be practically immortal. You can knock 3-meter tall behemoths to the ground with ease. You can remove the very gravity keeping your enemies grounded and leave them floating in the air. It's fun. Although, the AI, well, leaves a lot to be desired, and what's worse is that some enemies are straight up bullet sponges that will not die no matter how many shots you pump into them. Bro, do these Krogans have Hashirama cells or some shit? I don't know. This bullet sponginess makes some fights extremely obnoxious. You're about to lose way more than your shields if you don't help me, you fucking bird! Okay, time for a change.
Definition of insanity.
Okay, it's not all bad. Some encounters are actually pretty interesting. In one of the main missions, some refugees were infected with mind-controlling spores, and you had to use a special grenade that knocked them out, all while they attack you like normal enemies. It's a pretty interesting twist that forces you to be careful at who you shoot at. But of course, if you don't want to have to deal with that shit, you can also just shoot them. The choice to either spare or shoot these innocent people has to do with the two main paths that the game presents you in terms of roleplay, on top of the stuff that you get to choose when making your shepherd.
Classified information requested.
You get to pick a background, your reputation, your gender, how you look. I tried to make the cuntiest shepherd I could. She's pretty cute, but they're largely negligible in the grand scheme of things. The most you'll get is a specific quest, but at the same time, the other quest that is supposedly specific to a background is also available to you. The line referencing your background is just omitted. For the most part, Paragon and Renegade is the only thing that actually matters about Shepard's identity, which is absolutely not a bad thing. Because Paragon and Renegade aren't absolute moralities, they're more like ideologies that Shepard can choose to follow. With Saren threatening to end the world, any gamble on Shepard's life is risking the fate of the entire galaxy. They are the most qualified person in the Milky Way to take Saren on, and if the mind-controlled refugees were to kill them, then there goes the best chance that the galaxy had against Saren. One could argue that the path of least resistance that could mitigate the threat on Shepard's life takes precedence over the lives of these civilians. All while the system that Paragon Shepard has unquestionable faith in almost doomed the entire galaxy by focusing on the short-term threat of a schism with the Terminus systems. Had Shepard never disobeyed the Council's orders, Sovereign would have undoubtedly initiated the Harvest, and the war that can happen between Council space and the Terminus systems would have been nothing more than just a footnote in the Reapers' archives. At the same time, a life has inherent value and should be saved with any means necessary. Those civilians are the very people you are hunting Saren for. It'd be pretty hypocritical to sacrifice them. Even if Shepard themselves are the galaxy's best hope at stopping Saren, that doesn't give them the right to decide who gets to live and who doesn't. All the while, the Council is trying their best to maintain the peace that they have right now, which is allowing trillions of lives to live free of fear of war. Terminus systems are the Reapers, they're threats to the peace in Council space all the same, and the Terminus systems are the enemy that they know. Obviously, they'd operate within the bounds of what they know is true. It was actually Shepard's failing to properly gauge the threat of the Reapers to the Council. They could have at the very least recorded the conversation they had with Sovereign on Vermeer. Shepard is coming to the Council with nothing more than a testimony. They can't just hinge the livelihoods of trillions of people off of that. Just as they couldn't hinge the legitimacy of a trusted lieutenant off of the account of a singular dock worker. The writing in this game allows for both to have a point. The context by which these situations operate off of are very complex. And of course, it doesn't just end there. All the non-human companions, namely Rex, Garrus, and Tali, have their own personal missions. Rex's in particular can play into the outcome on the coming confrontation you'll have with him on Vermeer.
I've been loyal to you so far. Hell, you did more for me than my family ever did. But if I'm going to keep following you, I need to know we're doing it for the right reasons.
Rex, these Krogan are not your people. They're slaves of Saren, tools. Is that what you want for them?
Normally, if you didn't do his personal mission, the dialogue just progresses and you get prompted with either the charm or intimidate option. But Rex ends the conversation right then and there if you did his personal mission and picked the right dialogue option.
No, we were tools for the Council once. To thank us for wiping out the Rachni, they neutered us all. I doubt Saren will be as generous. All right, Shepard. You've made your point. I don't like this, but I trust you enough to follow your lead.
The game even adds an extra line of dialogue alluding to this.
I've been loyal to you so far. Hell, you did more for me than my family ever did.
Or if you fuck up that badly and you don't have enough Paragon or Renegade points to convince him and you didn't do his personal mission beforehand, you are going to have to shoot him. And if you keep trying to talk him out of it regardless, Ashley from the top rope will sneak his ass.
Got to do this my way.
This sort of non-linearity is everywhere, and it's also not reserved to just the dialogue options. Just up ahead in this mission, you perform a two-pronged attack with a squad of Solarians, and the success of their attack depends on how much you take the load off of
Scramble,
them.
they're targeting. We've got a shot. Aircraft heading to perimeter stations to recharge. Bunker up before they come back. Air threat has not materialized. Help, shadow.
It might be too much for the Solarian teams to handle.
Just disable the alarms. We can handle any guards inside.
It can even result in a character death if you don't help them out enough. There are a lot of moving parts in any given encounter in this game, both in and out of dialogue, and your choice to either be a Paragon or Renegade doesn't mean you're siding with the forces of good or evil. It's a lot more nuanced than that. I can very well see why people would want to pick the Renegade choice at times, whereas in other games, the path that's colored red are more so for people to watch on YouTube after they've done a good playthrough. Yes, Delcy, kill all the people that you did all this for because you're evil. But enough of the worthless bullshit that nobody gives a fuck about. I want to see some tits. Okay, let's all be for real. 90% of the reason why people buy role-playing games is that it also doubles as a dating sim. But your choices here are pretty limited. The two obviously best options are not romanceable in this entry. So you're stuck with either Ashley, Caden, or Liara. All of them are mid. Oh, shut the f*** up, you Ashley and Caden fans, all 6 of you combined. You have got no right to speak. Ashley's only character trait is racism, and Caden doesn't have any. And Liara's mid as f***, bro. Forcing her down my gullet isn't going to make me like her, BioWare. What are you gonna do? Huh? I was playing as FemShep, so Ashley was off the table, but I was feeling a little grande on my cappuccino this playthrough, if you catch my drift, and oh.
Dr. Tassoni. Commander, we need to talk. The 3 of us.
This is a rather awkward situation.
I'm not trying to make anyone uncomfortable, I'm just trying to figure out where I stand.
Maybe we should try to work this out.
I think we must. I may not know much about human relationships, but I understand the concept of jealousy.
I'm not jealous. I'm confused. I thought we had something, ma'am. I didn't realize that you were well, that you prefer other women.
I am not exactly a woman, Lieutenant. My species only has one gender.
Yeah, but you look... All right, Shepard. Make a choice.
I don't
If you're not
want
serious about me,
either of you.
it'll hurt, but I'll get over it. But until you tell me, I can't get over it.
Why do I have to make a choice? Maybe the 3 of us could...
No, sorry, Shepard. I mean, if I'd known... Well, maybe we just aren't right for each other. I hope things work out for you two. I've got a lot of work to do, Commander. Mission reports, that kind of thing. You know how it is.
I feel bad for her, Shepard. I hope she'll be okay.
I'll go talk with her in a while. Give her a chance to cool down.
I suppose you're right. I'm sorry you were put in this position, but I'm glad you chose me.
Okay, first of all, Liara, I didn't pick you. The game did. And second of all, Caden? Didn't know you went by she, her. And you know what? Good for you. I joked about Liara Sims being BioWare devs, but her being the default option if you try to 2-time the 2 options you have is kinda on the nose, regardless of how big a part she plays in the story. Speaking of, the story, it's pretty good. It didn't knock my socks off the docks off the box office or anything, but there are a lot of elements to it that I think are great. More specifically,
I can't tell the aliens from the animals.
racism! Quarians and the Geth hate each other. Krogans and the Solarians can't stand one another. Turians and the humans hate each other. Turians and the Krogan also hate each other. Turians in themselves, man, honestly, Turians are the Kanye West of the Milky Way. They're always in the center of some shit. You got the Asari with that high and mighty Ellen DeGeneres type shit on every other race. You got the Elcor, Volus, and Hanar that nobody takes seriously. If every Volus were kicked out of Council space, then who's going to count your credits, Councilor Spartus? Ooh, that's not... Nah, in the sense that, then you got the Batarians. Put a pin on that real quick. The underlying tensions between races is very interesting to me precisely because it ties into the rich history of the Milky Way and how it has a profound effect on the individual members of the species. Of course, it's not just history, the details extend to each race's customs, biology, etc. All these combined makes for a very colorful Milky Way, and those colors are concentrated into one point, the Citadel. I think this is why the Presidium is far and away my favorite part of this game. Just walking around the Presidium or the wards makes you feel the weight of history oozing from the atmosphere.
This statue represents what the Krogan used to be. A proud and fierce nation. Now we're just brutes for hire to the highest bidder. We've forgotten our roots.
Damn. And the side quests further flesh out the world and gives it so much depth that I wish there was more of these. Samesh Bhatia, a widower trying to retrieve his wife's body, but her wounds are the only way for the military to research the Geth's weapons. Chorbin and Jalid, scientists trying to find out more about the elusive Keepers. Shaira, one of the galaxy's top 0.0001% OnlyFans model. Conrad Werner. Emily Wong, a journalist trying to expose the corruption and organized crime happening in the Citadel. Kalisa Al-Jilani, a disingenuous reporter trying to push an agenda. Michael and Rebecca Petrovsky, the brother and wife respectively of a dead soldier. They're having an argument as to whether or not her child should be genetically augmented before birth. An AI that was originally made to make money out of a casino and is now threatening to blow you up, and now you have to play Simon Says. Just those little stories that makes the world feel lived in. It's meant to immerse you in this world, give it more detail to make the moment where it all comes crashing down that much more impactful. And the harbinger of that moment is perpetrated by the real villain of this game, Sovereign.
I am beyond your comprehension. I am Sovereign.
Sovereign isn't just some Reaper ship Saren found. It's an actual Reaper.
The Reapers are the crux of this franchise, and their introduction through Sovereign was incredibly well done. You could just feel how small and meager you are in comparison to this ancient being with motivations far beyond your understanding.
Rudimentary creatures of blood and flesh. You touch my mind, fumbling in ignorance, incapable of understanding.
Of course you blow him up in the end, this is the start of a fucking trilogy, but the gravitas of the Reapers was established really well through Sovereign. I just wish it didn't come at the cost of Saren's character. A bit of trivia first, Saren was a veteran of the First Contact War, and is super racist towards humans as a result.
But what can you expect from a human?
Hard H on that human there, Saren. He could have made for a great foil for Shepard. Their conflict could have tied directly to the conflicts between their respective races. But instead, he's dumbed down into just being a puppet of a Reaper. The Reapers having the ability to control people's minds kinda got in the way of Saren's characterization, because none of his actions are his own. They were sovereigns, regardless of how much autonomy he retains while being indoctrinated. You had something interesting here. At the very least, you could have incorporated it organically into the main antagonist. I don't know, just wishful thinking. I feel like if Saren's motivations were tied directly to the aspect of the story I found most interesting, he would have been way more compelling as a villain. But instead, Sovereign effectively replaces him by the end. Which I guess it's fine, somebody had to get shafted to make room for the Reapers. It just so happens that Saren was taking up that space, and in turn, the interspecies conflict that was teased at the start of the game. At least walking in the Citadel sideways looked cool. Alright, I think that's everything.
It's done, Commander. Go get the lieutenant and get the hell out of here!
Belay that. We can handle ourselves. Go back and get Williams.
Right. Okay. Just be patient, okay? I am saving that for later. For now, let's just give the verdict for Mass Effect 1, which is 7.7. Would you at least let me explain? We good? Alright. I have my gripes with it. But the writing, the world, and the characters somewhat make up for the parts that it lacks. Being the start of a trilogy, of course it's gonna go through some growing pains. There was potential there for something that could have stood on its own 2 feet, but the overarching villains in the form of the Reapers cannibalize a lot of Saren's character. I don't really think the Reaper threat upstaging the conflicts between these races was necessary. That and the outdated and obnoxious parts of this game can be really annoying considering how it eats up a chunk of a playthrough. But I will say that in spite of that, the good parts of this game manages to stand the test of time. I can definitely see why a lot of people think that this game is a classic. This game did a great job of making you want to see more of it, and I won't have to wait years for the sequel with the Legendary Edition. So let's hop right on the second game then. Okay, before that, brief intermission. I just want to say thank you if you've made it this far. I love yapping my ass off if you couldn't tell. That's what this channel is all about, really. And if you want to help out, like and subscribe and all that. Leave a comment down below about how much you hate Mass Effect 3 and whatnot. Anyways, I hope you enjoy the rest.
Still,
Mass
it's
Effect
not
2.
enough.
Good googly moogly, is her suit painted on her fucking skin? This game has a strong opening. No, not referring to that. I'm talking about the Normandy blowing up and Shepard dying. I did not expect that to happen. I don't think anyone did. This game had balls to put a 2-year time skip in between 1 and 2. I gotta applaud it for that. This game aged gracefully, I feel, compared to the first one at least. Everything about it just feels like an upgrade from the first game. The most noticeable one is the visuals. Now I know that graphics isn't everything in the game, but the improvements in the visuals just makes for a visceral experience, especially coming off of the first game. I can't tell you what it feels like to walk on the charred remains of the Normandy with nothing but the sound of your breath and footsteps accompanying you. You just have to be there to feel it. But the presentation isn't the only aspect that is improved from the first game. The combat got a lot of love as well. Everything has been rehauled. The overheating mechanic is scrapped for an ammo system.
This pistol doesn't have a thermal clip.
Classes have more identity with class-specific abilities. There's more variety in enemies and ways to deal with them. The different health types creates for some interesting rock, paper, and scissors type combat, while elements from the original like cover are enhanced and are a lot more important now. What? The challenge doesn't feel artificial because the systems and controls are reliable and you aren't shooting at massive health pools the entire time. Charge into a bunch of flamethrower vorcha like an idiot, die like an idiot. This is a clear improvement from the first game, and I think that's the idea here. Everybody hated the Mako, right? So there's no more of that bullshit. Instead, you mine planets from orbit.
Probe launched.
Yeah, this mobile game looking minigame is boring as hell, but any second not being on the Mako is a blessing. I'll just put on a trash taste episode on the background while I mine some materials.
Bang bang bang, bang bang bang, bang bang bang. Bang, bang.
And while Shepard's death reset all the progress from the first game, which I'll touch on later, it allowed for the story to focus more on the world of Mass Effect and the characters it inhabits. The real meat and potatoes of this game are the recruitment and personal missions. All of them are fucking bangers. Garrus, Tali, Mordin, Jack, Miranda, Thane, Legion, Grunt, Samara, Kasumi, Zaid, all of them have aspirations, struggles, ideals. I loved especially how the game intertwines its individual character stories with its world building. Like how the genophage has been affecting the well-being of individual Krogans, or how the Citadel still runs rampant with organized crime and corruption. Your lens into these parts of the world is through the characters. The lawless slums of Omega, the corporate hellscape of Ilium, the nuclear waste of Tachanka. You even get to visit the Quarian Flotilla.
More like Hurricane Tortilla.
The Citadel as well makes a comeback in this entry, but in this game, there's like 2 extra Citadels, all filled with their own side quests that further flesh out the world. There's a clear focus on elaborating on the parts of the world that the first game didn't have the chance to do. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. The reason why we're visiting so many places to recruit so many people and helping said people with their problems is because of the mission that the central figure of this game sent you on. That being the Elusive Man. The mysterious benefactor behind your resurrection at the start of the game. Every word out of his mouth is calculated. Every move, every hit of that cigar, there's thought put behind it. It also helps that his office goes hard as fuck. Look at this shit, man. I feel like I'm in an office of the CEO of an evil corporation in a cyberpunk media, which is what he basically is. He's the shadowy figure that looms behind every mission in this game. And every mission culminates into this game's crescendo, the suicide mission. It's as it says on the tin, you're gonna fucking die. Those personal missions aren't just a way to develop the characters in the world. No, they're also there so that you can earn that character's loyalty, which is a deciding factor on whether or not that character survives this mission. Even at the very start, it doesn't fuck around. If you didn't get all the ship upgrades, you wouldn't even make it to the collector base without a character death. And it's only gonna get worse from here. There are a set of roadblocks put in front of you towards your main goal, and if you pick the wrong person for the job, they will die, regardless of if they're loyal or not.
Here, maybe we can send someone in through this ventilation shaft.
I volunteer.
Jacob, you fucking idiot. And if you do pick the right person and they're not loyal, they'll also die. This mission is the ultimate test of how much you paid attention to these characters. It's also the ultimate test of your combat prowess. Fuck. Okay. Yes, Shepard, that's what I wanted you to do. Okay. Alright. You really feel the full weight of Harbinger's forces every step of the way. BioWare did not fuck around in this mission. In this game, really. With all this glazing I'm doing, you'd think that I think this is a perfect game. Well, while the suicide mission is still sizzling in your minds, the Human Reaper larva is not a good final boss. Mechanically, you're just sitting there and dumping your ammo on its weak points while collectors come at you, which is inoffensive. The spectacle kinda makes up for it, but the platform section before this gave me way more of a hassle. This is the send-off of the game before the DLCs. It could have been way more interesting considering how cool this fight looked. Paragon and Renegade got a bit dumped down in this entry. I mean, look at Renegade Shepard. Would you let this dude date your daughter? There was a lot more nuance to this system in the first game, whereas here, some Renegade choices don't have a lot of reason behind them. Like, why would you take Vitor in for interrogation? Disregarding how it's illegal to go against Tali, the data on his Omni tool could probably tell you more about what happened here than he can. And Cerberus is a human extremist group that did some fucked up experiments in the first game. What do you think they're gonna do to an alien? The nuance got a bit sucked out in some decisions in this game, whereas in the first game, there wasn't necessarily an obvious choice. Like, obviously, I'd pick Samara over Morinth. Obviously, I'd wake Grunt and Legion up. Obviously, I'd free David Archer. This system kind of veers into being a morality system at times, but at least I can say that it's not entirely there yet. There's still some semblance of how it was handled in the first game. Where it's drastically different from the first game though is in its level design, because it got a lot more streamlined in this game. Practically all the missions in this game follow the formula of one big shooting gallery with bits of encounters sprinkled in to break up the combat, then a big decision at the end. Which, for me personally, I can forgive the linearity if the writing is good enough, and it is. At least there are examples of decisions having an effect outside the mission it's in.
Shepard is right! Tali saved me. She doesn't deserve to be exiled.
Damn straight, Tali's done more for this fleet than you assholes ever will. You're pissing on everything I fought for, everything Tali fought for. So if you exile her, you might as well do the same to me.
Me too.
The choice that you make during the quest that involves these two makes its consequence apparent in this scene. If you let Tali take Vitor and prevented Rhaegar from sacrificing himself, they'll be here to vouch for Tali if you rile up the crowd. Of course, you could always just pick the red or blue option, but the existence of a third solution to this quest is very much reminiscent of the role-playing from the original. While some choices are dumb, the absence of choice in some encounters are also really stupid. Like, there's this Asari, who's a member of the Eclipse, and to be a member of the Eclipse, you need to have murdered somebody.
Be careful. Each Eclipse sister commits a murder to earn her uniform. They are all dangerous.
And look who's in uniform right now. But in this encounter, you can't call her out on her bullshit. Shepard canonically forgets what Pitney Ford told them and either kills her willy-nilly or lets her go willy-nilly. And what do you know, she was the murderer that the cop out front was chasing.
Well, it's official. Little baby Elnora is finally a full-fledged Eclipse merc. I earned my uniform last night when I killed that ridiculous bolus.
Why is it in the conversation with the Vermeer survivor I can't tell them that I don't trust Cerberus? The best that this game had to offer was this.
Cerberus and I want the same thing, to save our colonies. That doesn't mean I answer to them.
That doesn't really say much of anything about Shepard's opinion on Cerberus, which if you're playing as a Paragon should be overwhelmingly against them. That was the Renegade line. The Paragon one straight up is completely siding with Cerberus. You know, Paragon, the same Shepard that outright refused to work for Cerberus when they woke up.
I don't care what they did or what you say. I am not working with terrorists.
I feel like if there's a time to be expressing those feelings, it would be now. And you know what? It's time to talk about Caden or Ashley. In the first game, you had the decision of leaving one of them to die, which would make you think that the story going forward for them is going to be extremely different, right? Nah. The only part that the Vermeer survivor played in this game is in this one mission. An entire character is dead in favor of this one, and they're both basically diluted into the same character. They even have the same lines.
Commander Shepard, Captain of the Normandy, the first human Spectre, Savior of the Citadel. I thought you were dead, Commander. We all did. I would have followed you anywhere, Commander. Why didn't you try to contact me? Why didn't you let me know you were alive?
A choice in any game, RPG or not, is only worth as much as its consequence. And this choice sucks. On that note, the choices from the first game that has an effect on this one is negligible at best. Deciding the council's fate and the human counselor does not matter. The council basically stays the same and continues to deny the Reapers when a literal Reaper attacked them, regardless of who's at any of the 4 seats. These choices suck. Vigil, who is software and has survived from when the scientists first woke up after the Reaper invasion up until Shepard finds them, just fucking vanishes. For some reason. You know, a lot of the problems that Shepard has with the council can be solved if they just strap the fucking GoPro on their armor. That's technology that we have right now.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired!
But with how the council acts in this game, I genuinely don't think it would have mattered. I get why you would want to keep the Reapers a secret to the public. Civil unrest is always bad. I get why you wouldn't trust Shepard. The dude died and is now flying the colors of a terrorist organization. What I don't get is why you aren't doing anything to prepare for the Reapers when it's a fact that you know that they exist. This is the opening paragraph. No covert operations to secretly prepare for the Reapers to not startle the public. No projects to discover more about what the Protheans are researching in that lab. Nothing. Look, I'm all for the message that this game is trying to peddle. Like, I'm not a big fan of the government. Yes, pick your shit, Vegeta. But I don't remember them being this fucking stupid. They actually had reasons back then. This is all in service of that reset that started with Shepard dying. The events of the first game kind of pushed the plot way too far forward, and they needed a reason to pause for a bit to develop the world. That's why a lot of the decisions that you made in the first game don't really have much of an effect on this one, and any other events that would have changed the very fabric of how the world of Mass Effect worked going forward just doesn't. Although I do appreciate the steps this game took to further realize the world of Mass Effect, I don't think half-assing the decisions that is foreshadowed to have an effect on the sequel is the way to go. They could have very easily been more involved in the plot instead of just being reduced to cameos. Whatever. At the very least, in hindsight, these decisions do pop up in a better way in the next game. Which rears its ugly head into this game with the Arrival DLC. So it starts off with Admiral Hackett asking Shepard for a favor to rescue his friend out of a Batarian prison because they were caught trying to destroy a mass relay. Alright, since the Batarians are mentioned, I feel that this is the perfect time to talk about them. The Batarians are this game's evil race. Straight up, there isn't a single time where a Batarian was portrayed in a sympathetic way. In the first game, the only time they pop up is in a DLC where they're literal terrorists. In this one, there wasn't a single time that they aren't openly xenophobic and antagonistic. In the next one, they literally almost go extinct and nobody gives a shit.
What happened to the Batarians?
Never stood a chance, hit by the Reapers straight out of the gate. And without any allies to call on, I think the Batarians are history.
Slap on a bit of slavery on them and there you have an evil race. I know I'm breaking chronology here, but the issue I have with how the Batarians were handled spans the entirety of this franchise. Because it fucking dares to speak about racism while branding one of its races as the bad one. Not all Batarians? Well then fucking show me! The people that you meet of any other race in this trilogy exist in a spectrum of good and bad. Their race has no bearing on whether or not they're gonna be good or evil. But with the Batarians, 10 times out of 10, they're going to be evil. I feel like if you gave them a primarily antagonistic role in the first game, the sequel is the prime time to introduce a member of their species that isn't an asshole. But that doesn't happen. In fact, it swings to the complete opposite direction of making every interaction you have with a Batarian a negative one. And no, I'm not taking the their government is isolationist and forbids Batarian citizens outside their territory excuse. They found a way to get a Geth to be a companion in this game. Who's responsible for this shit? You do know how that comes off, right? John Mass Effect, you're essentially saying that we should all coexist and unite in spite of scars from wars fought long ago. Except for this specific race, because they can go die for all we care, and they should, because they did in the third game. They were the first to go, and losing them was negligible at best. But they were all evil anyway, so who cares? I better not find parallels with aspects of the Batarians and stereotypes of a real group of people, because that'd be pretty messed up. Hey, get back here, boy! At the very least, we get to see those average citizens that the criminals don't represent. But that just reads to me that BioWare realized their mistake and tried to make up for it. After killing off their entire race and sweeping it under the rug, of course. Make of that what you will. The subtext of how these races are written deserves a video of its own, so let's just get back to the Arrival DLC, huh?
We found proof that the Reapers will be arriving in this system. When they get here, they'll use its mass relay to travel throughout the galaxy.
Huh? Okay, well, I just wanna wind things back a bit to this conversation with Vigil, since it's pretty relevant. From what I understood, the Reapers harvest advanced races. And after they complete their harvest, they retreat back to dark space where they'll remain dormant and prepare for the next harvest.
Our enemy had a single goal: the extinction of all advanced organic life.
I don't understand. Where did the Reapers go after they conquered your people?
Our worlds were stripped bare, harvested by the indoctrinated slaves. Everything of value, all resources, all technology was taken. Certain that all advanced organic life had been extinguished, the Reapers retreated back through the Citadel relay into dark space, sealing it behind them.
The Reapers designed the Citadel to be the hub of the galactic government of the Cycle so that they could get all the intel they need and take out the head of the snake in one fell swoop at the very start of the harvest. Because the Citadel is actually a dormant mass relay, which connects directly to dark space where the Reapers lay dormant in between harvests.
The Citadel is the heart of your civilization and the seat of government. As it was with us, and as it has been with every civilization that came before us. But the Citadel is a trap. The station is actually an enormous mass relay, one that links to dark space, the empty void beyond the galaxy's horizon. When the Citadel relay is activated, the Reapers will pour through, and all you know will be destroyed.
They then turn off all communications and transportation via the mass relay so that the individual worlds are trapped making it easier to eliminate the worlds one by one.
If he turns on the relay, the Reapers can wipe out the Council and the Citadel fleet in one fell swoop.
That was our fate. Our leaders were dead before we even realized we were under attack. The Reapers seized control of the Citadel, and through it, the mass relays, communication and transportation across our empire were crippled. Each star system was isolated, cut off from the others. Easy prey for the Reaper fleets. Over the next decades, the Reapers systematically obliterated our people. World by world, system by system, they methodically wiped us out.
The Keepers are made by the Reapers not just to keep the true nature of the Citadel hidden, but to initiate the harvest via a signal broadcasted by the Citadel that Sovereign gives, compelling them to activate the Citadel relay. The Protheans discovered a way to jack that signal so that the Keepers ignores the signal coming from the Citadel, which traps the Reapers in dark space. Traps.
The Keepers are controlled by the Citadel. Before each invasion, a signal is sent through the station compelling the Keepers to activate the Citadel relay. After decades of feverish study, the scientists discovered a way to alter this signal. Using the conduit, they gained access to the Citadel and made the modifications. This time, when Sovereign sent the signal to the Citadel, the Keepers ignored it. The Reapers are trapped in dark space.
The Reapers are trapped in dark space. The Reapers are trapped in dark space.
The whole purpose of Sovereign was that he was left behind after the harvest to send the signal to the Citadel and initiate the harvest.
If the Reapers are trapped in dark space, how did Sovereign get here?
It is logical to assume the Reapers would leave one of their own behind after each extinction. A sentinel to pave the way for their inevitable return. Like those in dark space, Sovereign probably spent most of the last 50,000 years in a state of hibernation. Periodically, it would wake to analyze the situation. Keeping its existence hidden, it would evaluate the state of galactic civilization. And when the time was right, it would signal the Citadel and usher in the next Reaper invasion. But this time the signal failed. The Keepers did not respond. Sovereign's allies were trapped in the void. Alone, it was forced to try and discover what had gone wrong.
So the Reapers need the Citadel in order to enter the galaxy and do the reaping. They have no other way to enter the galaxy otherwise. So now that that's established, Anyway, boy, the Reapers this entire time could have gotten in and out of dark space whenever the they wanted. So what was the point of practically everything that the two named Reapers did in Mass Effect 1 and 2? Why did Sovereign do all that shit in the first game, indoctrinating an Asari matriarch and a Spectre, allying himself with a Geth, etc, etc, if he could have just flown to where the Reapers were sleeping and made the trip back with them to the nearest relay and did the surprise attack without having to activate the Citadel? Sovereign was shown to be patient enough to enact this intricate plan to find the conduit and attack the Citadel all by himself, but he's not patient enough to fly for 6 months in dark space? Also, why did Harbinger settle with staying in dark space and controlling the Collectors via Reaper Wi-Fi? He could have entered the galaxy this entire time. If he was physically there to aid the Collectors with this indoctrination and whatnot, the human Reaper would have undoubtedly been completed. Actually, why the is he even making a Reaper in the first place? Is it to replace Sovereign? Well, that would be the most sensible reason if you couldn't enter the fucking galaxy, because otherwise, why are you wasting all of this time with the Collectors when you could have woken up all the Reapers from the minute Sovereign died and invaded the fucking galaxy? So much of why Sovereign and Harbinger did the things they did in the manner that they did them, and why there's 2 whole games in the franchise, was because of this one hurdle. which apparently was never there. It doesn't matter if it takes them 6 months, a year, a fucking century. They're literal godlike ancient eldritch beings, and the one hurdle they had is apparently just laziness. Brass tacks. You said something, then the events that followed were consistent with what you said, and now you're going back on it. This is a textbook retcon. No amount of codex entry, sci-fi jargon, and mental gymnastics can convince me that this is not the case. This is the biggest indicator of the dramatic shift in direction that this franchise took for the worse. You need not to look anywhere else, there's the rest of the Arrival DLC to prove it. Oh, you were indoctrinated this entire time, even though you revealed the only plan that can stop the Reapers from coming here. Oh, the Reapers have this artifact that broadcasts the Reapers' existence, even though the main component of their invasion is that nobody sees it coming. Oh, Mac Walters is the main writer?
I will die, never having seen the Reaper's blessings. And you will just die. We can get off this asteroid. No, we cannot.
Fuck you mean, nah-uh?
Even now, your greatest civilizations are doomed to fall.
Oh, Shepard's clenching their fists. Ooh.
However insignificant we might be, we will fight, we will sacrifice, and we will find a way. That's what humans do.
Just humans. No Asari, no Turians, no Krogans, no Solarians, not even including every other sapient race in the galaxy. Just humans. Everybody else needs to get their shit together, alright.
Prepare yourselves for the arrival.
Title call. Oh, I'm forced to commit a mass genocide. Of the Batarians, no less. This is not helping your case, BioWare. You know what? I'm not including this DLC in my verdict for Mass Effect 2. I'm not willing to dock points because of this one shit stain, considering how the other DLCs in the main game are still great. The Arrival DLC is the prelude to the third game anyway, so I'll treat it as if it was a part of that game instead. Mass Effect 2 gets a flat 8 out of 10. This game tried really hard to make something of its own, which is a double-edged sword. The new stuff that's introduced in this entry is some of the best content that the trilogy has to offer. All the new companions are compelling in their own ways, while the old ones, namely Tali and Garrus, are elevated. The obnoxious parts are gone, the existing systems are improved, and while the non-linearity is all but abandoned and Renegade got the short end of the stick in this game, the writing is stellar enough to outweigh those negatives. But at the same time, the stuff that was supposed to carry over from the first game left a lot to be desired. I just saved an entire species from extinction. I think I deserve more than just a DM from their queen. That and the Batarians being solidified as the evil race is kinda... I don't like talking about it. Nevertheless, even though it's disappointing, it doesn't take away from all the good stuff that's new. And that stuff is really good. The story took a bit of a step back in order to focus more on developing the world and the characters. I think that's a fair trade-off. Hindsight is 2020 and I really should have just enjoyed this game before the disappointment starts. Which is now. Mass Effect 3. This game. You know, if I had a nickel every time a game had a disastrous release and a real-life journalist was in it, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. The difference here is that Cyberpunk has a good game underneath all that bullshit. To sum up my opinion of this game, I think my opinion of this sword thing they duct taped on the Omni tool is pretty similar. It's big, it's tacky, and it intrudes on something pre-established and bastardizes it to appeal to a younger audience. Where do I even start?
We gotta go. The Defense Committee wants to see you.
Sounds important.
Okay, the dialogue. Everybody talks like they're in a Fast and Furious movie.
What's going on?
Couldn't say. Just told me they needed you. You know the commander?
I used to.
What the hell's going on? Where's Anderson? Where are we going? Hey!
We're leaving.
What's going on?
We're leaving. Easy there, Lieutenant. She's with us.
Hallelujah. Some answers, finally.
Maybe.
But why? We got company. But why?
Bring it on.
Not this time, James.
What?
Looks like they found us.
But why?
I believe you. Or I believe that you believe. Maybe that's enough.
I could hear the voice actress physically recoiling from that line.
That's an understatement.
I take it that's the only way in.
It's the only way I know of.
Set up a perimeter. No one else comes across.
We still have teams on the other side.
No one can shut down those cameras.
Looks like they've made it to the archives.
What?
The Major has become very capable.
Agreed.
Commander, I found something.
Come take a look at this, Glisher.
They didn't change me, Caden. But words won't convince you, will they?
Probably not.
I didn't think so. You were always stubborn.
Me? Think they bought it?
They didn't, they'll figure it out soon enough.
The archives are right on the other side.
That and a squad of angry Cerberus troops.
Probably not.
What do you want?
What I've always wanted.
But like the rest of the relics in this place, your time is over. Dispose of him.
But why?
It's just one-liners after one-liners after one-liners. This is the type of shit that people use as a punchline to a joke, and it's unironically how the dialogue is written.
That was for leaving, dumbass.
On top of the fact that you rarely get to have a say on what Shepard says. I don't consent to half the shit that they say, and there's even a fucking option to turn off dialogue choices. What really sealed how little of a control I have now on Shepard are these long-ass unskippable dream sequences. That's just so deep and meaningful. And Caden is here too. Or Ashley. You're not fooling anyone, BioWare. They're still the same person.
You know the commander?
I used to.
If we could find a short-range
communicator.
Helmet to helmet.
And?
And
we convince them that we're on their side. Tell them the Alliance forces have been taken care of.
Shepard,
Commander.
I found something.
I found something.
Okay, I'm being hyperbolic. Of course, BioWare did try to make them more distinct in this game. In the Citadel DLC, Caden cooks for Shepard, and Ashley hooks up with James if you don't romance either of them. Which, why would you? God, this game is just such a fucking downgrade. It feels like I'm playing a 13-year-old's fanfiction of what they'd think Mass Effect 3 would be like. It even has the Sasuke OC with plot armor.
Slower than I imagined. Nightmare hit! I've got this!
They even made this gunship invincible when in the second game there was not one, not two, but 3 separate occasions you blow up a gunship with arguably less powerful guns. It's not just Kai Lang, the Reapers got this treatment as well. Take Sovereign, for example. It took one human fleet plus the Normandy to blow him to bits. All while he had to seek help from the Geth to take the brunt of the Council's defenses. But in Rannoch, it took the bombardment of the strongest fleet in the galaxy 3 times, aiming at the weak point of a way weaker Reaper to knock it down. There wasn't even a dent on this thing. It should be dust by the logic that the first game established. Is Sovereign just that fucking soft? No, it's because the Reapers were given a power-up in this game. The Reapers took centuries to eradicate the Protheans, and that's all with the advantages of controlling all the mass relays and information via the Citadel. And even then, they weren't successful in killing all the Protheans. But the Reapers in Mass Effect 3 was steamrolling the entire fucking galaxy, and they would have actually won if it wasn't for the Crucible, which, by the way, came out of fucking nowhere. They put a Deus Ex Machina in my fucking Mass Effect game. Oh my god. This is all in service of that dramatic shift in direction that I mentioned. This game isn't interested in making sense. If it thinks it looks or sounds cool, it will do it, regardless of if everybody else think it's lame as fuck, and regardless of if it's contradictory to what the first two games established. Like, why is there just one fucking Reaper in Tachyon and Rannoch if they have 4 to 5 Reapers to spare to chase the Normandy while I'm collecting artifacts for the 500th fetch quest in the Citadel? They can spare another one to help out in these actually critical moments in the invasion. I know damn well they aren't struggling to take over the homeworlds with that power-up they got from the writers. Well, if the Reapers aren't complete fucking idiots, it wouldn't be possible for these races that was properly and intricately built up over the course of 2 games to have their moment of taking down the Reaper for a hurrah Milky Way moment. So they just assigned one Reaper to deal with them. Again, if it thinks it looks or sounds cool, it will do it. Why is it that everything Vigil said is now made completely false? You know, that whole plot with the Citadel controlling all the mass relays, itself being a mass relay connecting to dark space, etc, etc. Because if the Citadel still did those things, why the f didn't the Reapers beeline it into the Citadel? Why did they attack the homeworlds at all? The galaxy still relied on the mass relays for FTL. If they secure the Citadel, they literally win the war. Well, if they followed through with what the cycle was described to be in the first game, it wouldn't be possible for this game to have its Reaper War with cool space battles and shit. It also wouldn't be possible for this game to have the level of tension that an unstoppable foe and a Deus Ex Machina can only give. So everything that was written about how the cycle worked and what the Citadel was is now retconned. Again, if it thinks it looks or sounds cool, it will do it. Also, the Geth. Just why? They're completely unrecognizable from how they were in the first 2 games. Remember their completely unique physiology, how it tied directly to their goal as a species?
We are immortal. Our gods disowned us. We must create our own reasons to exist.
What reason have you come up with?
We are a shattered mind. Most platforms are unable to achieve consciousness on their own. We told you the Geth are building our future.
But you didn't say what it is.
A megastructure. The closest analog you have is a Dyson sphere. When completed, we will all upload to it.
What good will that do?
All memories will be shared. All perspectives will be unified. We gain intelligence by sharing thoughts, but we do not have adequate hardware for all of us to share at once. No Geth will be alone when it is done.
Well, throw that shit away. They're now seeking to have true individuality.
Now, a single Geth unit with the old machine upgrades.
That's a fully evolved AI.
Yes, we do not agree with the goals of the old machines, but we find this growth beautiful, indicative of life.
It is.
Commander!
Come on, Admiral. That's a living creature, no matter what platform it's running on.
Bro, they already were alive before those upgrades. Characters had no qualms using language which referred to the Geth as if they were just another race of sapient life.
Tali, your father was running brutal experiments. If the subjects had been human, I'd damn well be telling the Alliance about it.
Wow, great choices. Genocide or brainwashing. If you screwed with my head, made me nod and smile at everything, I'd rather you blew my head off. Let me die as me.
Kill them or pull their teeth. What's the difference? They're killed both ways. Take away their fighting spirit. What else matters?
This is Grunt. He's my son and he was born a week ago. And even he knows that the Geth are living people. The Geth never sought to think like organics. Legion even verbatim questions the form of individuality that organics possess.
When individuals are separated, they develop in different ways. When they get back together, they don't always get along.
If this is the individuality you value, we question your judgment.
This is just a complete misinterpretation of the Geth. What made them interesting was precisely that which you fucking obliterated. That being their nature as a completely unique form of consciousness, far removed from the tired tropes of artificial intelligence just wanting to be real people. But we can't have that in this game. We gotta sell those Commander Shepard action figures we couldn't even be bothered to fully package.
But this scene here is missing something, and I mean blatantly straight up missing something. Now this seriously is a real disappointment.
This is what I meant in the beginning of this section, by the way. They are actually fucking selling toys of a game that is rated 17 and up. From the moment I saw that blade, I knew it was over. This franchise is now treated less as a piece of art and more so as an intellectual property. But I wasn't entirely convinced yet, so I did some digging. And oh, loot boxes? Jaffic was a day one DLC? You needed to play multiplayer to get the highest possible war assets? Now you might be thinking, why am I complaining about something that doesn't affect me, since I hopped on the franchise through the Legendary Edition? Which... touche. But first of all, okay, that doesn't negate how scummy this is. And second of all, the soullessness didn't keep itself inside of EA's shady business practices. It also bled into the creative process of this game. Everything that I complained about, from Kai Leng, the inconsistency of the Reapers, the outright retcons of the established details from the first game, to the butchering of the Geth, all of this is an effort to commercialize this franchise to the point that it appeals to the lowest common denominator. To look cool enough so that little boys would wanna buy their action figures. All the nuance, all the complexity was sucked out in favor of something more easily digestible. Remember the elusive man? We'll give him the Saren treatment and do it in a completely separate form of media so that it's much more jarring coming from the second game. How about Paragon and Renegade? Complexity? Well, the children we're trying to sell this game to don't have the brain capacity to think about moral gray areas. So just make Renegade Shepard an outright genocidal maniac.
Kill your friends. Shoot them in the fucking face. Sabotage the Genophage cure. Fuck the Krogans. Shoot Miranda's sister in the fucking leg. Watch Samara kill herself, then kill her daughters.
Blood for the blood god. Skulls for the skull throne. Let's talk about the endings now. Oh boy, I was not prepared for what I was about to witness. In my first playthrough, not this playthrough by the way, you're only seeing footage of my second playthrough, I was actually pretty excited coming into the last mission of this game. Because Thessia was a shit show of unimaginable scale.
Cerberus thanks you for all your hard work.
I genuinely thought this game couldn't go any lower than that. But whenever I go online to see what people say about this game, it's always about how bad the ending was. If the ending is apparently bad enough to overshadow Thessia, I was in for a treat. And by God, it delivered. Just by the mere existence of the catalyst, I could already tell how little of a fuck this ending gives about the first two games. Because going off of how the Citadel was activated in the first game, apparently, the catalyst, who is the collective consciousness of the Reapers residing in the Citadel, was telling Sovereign to tell the Citadel to tell the Keepers to tell the Citadel to open. What the fuck? You know, this ending and in turn this game would have honestly received a pass from me if, at the very least, the purpose of the Reapers made sense. But it doesn't. The whole reason for this cycle of galactic genocide was because synthetics are locked in conflict with organics. Really? Didn't the Geth, a synthetic race, make peace with the Quarians on Rannoch? Did this game contradict itself? It's not just how incoherent this ending is, it's that this whole thing had the wrong idea as to what the story of Mass Effect was. It wasn't about organics versus synthetics, that was the story of the Quarians and the Geth, and nobody else. And yet I'm supposed to sit here and pretend as if that's been the theme of this franchise this entire time. The Leviathan DLC doesn't even help it as well. There was a blank slate they could write on about the past cycles and the origins of the Reapers, so of course it's in line with this whole catalyst thing. But plainly, this ending fails because it's giving an ending to a story that just wasn't what was being told in this franchise. Where this ending got the idea that it was all because of synthetics is beyond me. All I know is that whatever Mass Effect was, it wasn't what Mass Effect 3 decided it to be. Alright, rant over. I wanted to get my criticisms of this game out of the way first, because I didn't want to end this video like this franchise did. So, let's take a look at the good parts of this game. The combat is straight fucking gas. Playing this game on Insanity is, well, insanity. I had so much fun with the combat, not just because it will fuck you up if you made even the tiniest of mistakes. Holy shit! There's so many ways to take that treatment and throw it right back to the game. You can feel extremely powerful without robbing the game of its challenge. Even in the missions that I dread because of the writing, I still had the comfort of getting to blow shit up. There's so many ways to approach this game, and every approach is a valid one, because all of it is overpowered as
I've got this! I need to recharge! Cover me!
You're slower than I imagined. You've had your fun now, Shepard. It's a pity the good ones never last.
Tachyon and Rannoch are two of the best parts of this franchise. No joke, even though it does fall victim to a lot of the stupid shit that plagues the rest of the game, I would say that these two arcs were done pretty damn well. Here is where the overarching conflicts between a lot of the races in this game comes to their fruition. The Genophage's story is the best story that this franchise has to offer, and that's in no small part to how it ends in the third game. These arcs also have a wealth of consequences arising from your choices in the first two games. Rex is now a very important character, and not just a fucking backdrop in the environment. He actually has an effect on how this arc can play out. Same with Malin's data. Same with the choices on Legion's and Tally's loyalty missions. I know that the other paths in these arcs falls on that infamous evil root syndrome, where the only reason to pick those options is because you want to see what happens. But it's there. They tried. It's not as praiseworthy as Renegade was in the first game, but I recognize the effort here. At the very least, the writing in these arcs are a league above the rest of the game. I loved how volatile the relations were between the Turians and the Krogans. How a conflict from centuries ago is still causing problems today. I find it very realistic how distrusting everybody is to each other, and how even in the face of mutually assured destruction, there's still people who vehemently holds on to their prejudice. While the butchering of the Geth is complete bullshit, I still like the general writing of this arc outside of that. The Quarians are fucking idiots, with pretty much their hatred of the Geth being the only driving factor for this war that their population didn't even entirely agree to. I especially like this scene with this dying Quarian, who is revealed to have been just a civilian, not a soldier. It just goes to show how much the governing body of this race, who claims to represent their people, is willing to sacrifice them for some vainglorious attempt at revenge. How innocents like Dorn are roped into a conflict they didn't even want. How people like Tali, who has never even seen their homeworld before, are radicalized into hating the Geth. These arcs serve as a microcosm of the dynamics between these races, and nowhere can that be more pronounced than in the effort to resolve their centuries-old beef. While the Reapers' invasion is wrought with contrivance, unfortunately, it's that very same contrivance that allows for these arcs to happen. If you could suspend your disbelief enough, you might actually glean some modicum of enjoyment during these arcs, which is just about the best compliment I could give for any part of this game, because anything else outside of this is filled with edgy, self-serious, B-rated action movie bullshit. At the very least, you get to take a break from that in here. And in the Citadel DLC, 3 to 4 hours of straight fan service, which is basically one big apology letter from BioWare. The tone is more comedic and laid back. You get to hang out with all your friends, throw a party with them, revel at how bad Shepard is at dancing, and cap off the night with your love interest. It's a celebration of what people liked about this franchise the most, which is its characters. And that's it. That's Mass Effect 3. 5 out of 10. I don't know what else to say about this game. It's genuinely impressive how big of a fuck up this was. Not just the ending. There's not much I actually like about this game. Every enjoyable combat encounter is soured with the imminent threat of the shitty writing popping up. If I ever decide to replay this trilogy, I can only stand to play the third game with mods, which is not a good thing to say about your game, especially the last one in the trilogy. Well, it's not as if there's anything that can be done about it now. They already did move on with the trilogy with Andromeda. I guess I'm just gonna have to accept that this trilogy ended with the way that it did. Because now it's time to give the final verdict for this trilogy. Averaging all the scores, this trilogy gets a 6.9. Nice. Let's round that up to a flat 7. Overall, I did enjoy my time with this trilogy. I can't say that it's a masterpiece of gaming. It's definitely not gonna crack my top 5, but it was a fun experience. I'm not particularly well versed in sci-fi. I've never seen Deep Space Nine or anything Star Trek, which, looking at the clips I see on TikTok, definitely has an influence on this franchise. But I think where they garner their popularity from is their exploration of themes analogous to reality, like racism, for example. At least whenever that is explored in Mass Effect is when Mass Effect is at its best. Of course, it's not perfect, but it tries to approach the topic with some level of maturity. It's just a shame that whoever was responsible for Mass Effect 3 got too lost in the Kool-Aid, and the franchise as a whole suffered because of it. But I have faith in BioWare and their venture into a new entry into the series just above the horizon. I've been hearing nothing but good things about the new talent in their development team. The future is looking bright for Mass Effect, in spite of its sordid past with Mass Effect 3 and Andromeda. Well, at least I'm sure about how bad Mass Effect 3 is. I can't really comment on Mass Effect Andromeda. All I know is that the Turian lady is hot. I don't know if it's the 48 years of colonization, but that American Pacific Northwest accent just does something to me, man. Just listen to how she pronounces 3 words as if it was one.
I'd rather go for the sure thing, even if it takes a couple more shots.
Even if it, God, it's so fucking hot.